Howdy, hi. I'm Carol, and I live in Zone 3 on a good day. And I'm loving gardening, and I'm looking forward to getting my geodesic dome built. But in the meanwhile, today I thought, let's talk about plants you cannot kill. And I'm starting off in a part of the yard where I've decided to put all the guys that I can't kill. And I thought, what the heck? Let them perform a survival of the fittest test and see who survives. So without any further ado, here are the plants you simply cannot kill. This is what we refer to as the island, and it consists of two large trees and a smaller little oak tree in the center that's really struggling to survive between the two large ones. And we're coming up on the plants that have really been here since I moved here in 1996. So the former owners of this place obviously decided we're picking hardy plants and they'll never die. And if that was their plan, oh, it's worked. Because when we moved out here in 1996, this place was zoned as 1B. Now, over the course of the years, it's moved up on the scale. And really, as I said in my intro, it's sometimes, on a good day, a Zone 3. But not everybody agrees that it's a Zone 3. Some call it still a Zone 2B. So, whatever the case, these plants don't care what zone it is. So, number one on the list of the absolute worst culprits that you cannot get rid of: goutweed. Goutweed was in an area of my border around my house. And I'm telling you, it took me years and years and years to pick that out. And the reason is, the roots, if you leave a tiny little millimeter-sized root in the soil, it will just continue to grow and produce thousands and thousands of offspring. It's just the craziest thing. Like, goutweed is pretty. I love the variegated leaves. So I put a tiny bit in here. I mean, a tiny bit. The rest I threw away so no one else would have to ever deal with goutweed. There's its blossoms. And here it is, coming out of the island that I put it in. So Lord only knows how long it's going to take to get back to my perimeter. Anyways, it has taken over this entire island. So goutweed is the winner for you can't get rid of it. So my advice is, unless you are a type A personality where you are willing to get down on your hands and knees and probably use a screen, a fine mesh screen, to sieve through all of your soil, you're going to have a tough time getting rid of goutweed. I mean, that's what I ended up doing. Type A personality here, and you need a lot of patience and good knees. So goutweed, the absolute worst. Here I have some yarrow, and I think it might be just native yarrow. It grows large, and it produces bright yellow flowers. They're not in flower yet, but yeah, so it was also all over the yard, and it has rhizome roots, which are very difficult to get rid of. So it's kind of pretty. And there are now some really lovely yarrow that you can buy with delicate little flowers and delicate leaves. The very mention of yarrow, and I and I have to back off because of this really, really aggressive yarrow that I have. And another one that was just in one patch of the yard when I came here in 1996. This surprised me. This is Maltese Cross. I'm not sure how it got here. I still have some in my border from the original woman that planted it. And there's nothing wrong with Maltese Cross. It's an old-fashioned flower and it does its thing. But it got here and it's multiplying. It's in 2 separate places in this island. So if you want a plant and you like it, if you want a plant that you cannot kill, I recommend Maltese Cross. I do not recommend goat weed unless you can keep it somewhere contained. If you can and you like it, like I like it, but my goodness, it's so aggressive. Same with the yarrow. Maltese Cross, you'd be okay. It doesn't move. It sits where you put it, but it never dies. This guy obviously seeded out here. Another one that has seeded out and continues to live, Delphinium. They just continue to seed in my yard. And I can find them along the riverbank in amongst the grass and the weeds. And they survive. So they're very, very tough plants. Delphinium. Just a regular Delphinium. None of the new hybrids. I love the new hybrids, the pinks and the light purples. But these originals from years and years ago, they're mighty tough. They reseed themselves quite nicely. What you don't see here are forget-me-nots. And when I first put them in here for the contest, I thought they might win, even though they're so tiny. But I guess that's the problem for the forget-me-nots, because they're terribly invasive. Really pretty, but terribly invasive. And I guess the goutweed is too tall for them, and it managed to choke them out. This is Shasta Daisy. Really pretty flower, but it has taken over so much of the original perennial garden that I had here. I've turned it into a rose garden now. But it had taken over the entire garden. It just choked out the entire cacophony of other perennials. It was really disturbing to me, so I tried to take it out. There's still Shasta daisies in my raspberry patch. I have seen Shasta daisies out in the ditch on the road outside of our yard. There's no stopping these very original Shasta daisies. So if you love them and you think, oh, I'm going to start Shasta daisies, be careful. Be careful what kind you get. These original heirloom Shasta daisies are kind of dangerous. We're currently looking at bellflower. Pretty, very. I love it. However, it is very aggressive and very invasive. So I find if you don't pluck off every single flower when it's done, and every day there are some flowers that are done. There's some right now. I pluck them every day. They will drop off, go to seed, and I'm pretty sure their germination rate must be 100%. So bellflowers pretty, are they worth it? I don't think so. I actually thought I'd cleaned out all the bellflowers from around this yard. I had a friend give them to me about 10 years ago, and I'm having a heck of a time keeping them at bay. So I decided, okay, I'll let these guys try it just in this corner, and I'll really try hard to keep them in this corner. They're in between a peony and a monk's hood. So I've got some borders. I'm going to try really hard to keep them at bay. But I might get tired of trying to pluck these darn flowers off, and then as soon as you get some seeds down, you're pretty well done. So, yeah, that's another one I say, caution, caution. Another plant that's been here since I moved here is these little guys. I call them Johnny Jump-Ups. And if you let them, they'll take over your world as well. Pretty as can be, but I spend a lot of time trying to make sure that they don't transport their little selves everywhere. They don't seem to mind any environment. They like the sun, they like the shade, they like everything. Johnny Jump-Ups, beware. We're currently in what I call the Nook. And when we first moved out here, there were Virginia creepers all along where I have these geraniums. All along this wall, along this gazebo, there were Virginia creepers. So, boy, are they aptly named, because they creeped their way to the deck. Underneath the deck, they creeped their way. They moved. Underneath the deck, we didn't have this particular kind of deck. We just had wooden boards with, enough space in between them so that they found themselves some space up against this wall, and they started climbing up the wall. So I thought, well, isn't that pretty? I feel like I'm in England, kind of like with ivy climbing on the wall. So I thought, well, fine, we'll just let them stay there until they started ripping the stucco off the wall. And you really have to be persistent to get those little clinging legs of theirs off the stucco. Again, very tough work. I was out here with brushes and water and you name it. It took a really long time to get the little bits of Virginia creeper. I wouldn't be surprised if we went and looked, we'd find some still on that stucco. So I'm going to show you something. We're currently 30 feet away from the nook where the Virginia creepers were. We're in the bush. This is all native plants. And do you see what's growing here? I have not had Virginia creepers in this yard for a really long time. Many years. I'm going to say 20 years, 25 years. And what you've got down here in the bush are some really happy Virginia creepers. So I must have thrown a vine down here at some point. And there it grows. So beware of Virginia creeper. They're another one that if you leave just the tiniest little bit of root, they will literally grow into a big plant, because I made a mistake and put some on an arch in the garden. And to this day, every spring, I am digging out Virginia creepers. Yeah, they're very aggressive. So I'm going to conclude there and wish you a happy day. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And please hit the like and subscribe button if you can. And we'll see you soon. We're getting dangerously close to the day that I've been anticipating. That day is just a couple days away now, where the Wonder Dome is getting built. Take care. Toodles. Bye.